Hello and welcome to the April 2022 Recreational Astronomy Night Meeting online edition of the RASC Toronto Centre. My name is Paul Markov, coming to you from Markham, Ontario. And as I always say at the beginning, I'm always looking for speakers for presentations. If you have a presentation in mind or know of someone who could present, please get in touch with me. We have openings for the May and later meetings. And a reminder that our meetings are held on the first Wednesday of each month. Before we start our presentations, I'd like to recognize our top-notch technical team comprised of Andrew and Betty Reed, Emma Seabrook, Ward LeGros, and Ennio Ciolucci. Thank you for making these presentations possible for us. We have 3 presentations this evening, as usual, and I expect we will be done by 9:30 or even a little bit earlier. The speakers for tonight are Andy Beaton with The Sky This Month. We have Tim Doucette. He'll talk to us about Celestron's Starsense Explorer telescopes and software. And then we'll have Dave Chapman. He'll tell us about how asteroids are named, and we'll have commentary from Peter Jedicke. Tom Luton, our president, will close the meeting as usual with the announcements. If you have questions for our speakers, please enter them in the chat box, and Emma will ask your questions to the speakers. Okay. Also, if you are attending the meeting for the first time, whether you're a member or not, please say hello through the chat box as well. So let's get the meeting going with Andy Beaton and The Sky This Month.
Hello, my name's Andy Beaton. I'm here again from my basement office in downtown Toronto to present The Sky This Month. Or as we have discussed things before, the clouds this month. It's been a pretty lousy month so far for looking at the sky. Hopefully the upcoming month is going to be better. People who have seen me do this before know the general gist here, the big picture, key dates, the moon, planets, something from the deep sky, a double star to keep Blake happy, a variable star to keep me happy, and whatever's going on in the world of spaceflight over the next short while. So, the big picture. Tonight, later in the evening, if we were able to see through the clouds, or if you happen to be watching from somewhere other than Toronto where you do get a clear sky tonight, this is the sort of sky to be looking towards. Your favorite winter constellations are disappearing towards the horizon. The moon is out there. We've got a crescent moon, which is very nice. Got very little in the way of planets out there tonight. But at least for a short while, you're going to have lots of nice winter deep sky objects early in the evening. If you've got kids that want to come out and have a look at the fancy clusters and nebula, it'll be a good night for it. By the end of the month, before the next meeting, if you were to wake up at 5 in the morning and have a look to the east and see what's coming along, there we have all our favorite summer constellations and a big parade of planets. I'm personally not someone who wakes up early in the morning to look at the sky, but if you are, and I know that there are people here who are morning people, you've got lots of good stuff available for it. The nights are getting shorter. That's a bad thing for us who like to do our astronomy earlier in the evening rather than later. It's a hard cheese on people who are astrophotographers and want to get as much dark sky in a single night as possible. But on the upside, I guess there is no upside for us, is there really? Twilight ends at 9:20 tonight. By the time of the next meeting, it'll be ending at 10:15. And as you can see, it gets worse and worse in the morning. Twilight starts at 4:45 tomorrow morning, and will start at 3:45 by the time the next meeting comes along. So important dates coming up. The new moon is on April 30th. The moon is at apogee, that's its farthest distance, on April 7th, and perigee on April 19th. That's something I always have trouble keeping in mind. That's why I always throw in that far and close note in there. Full moon on April 16th. We've got a decent meteor shower coming up, the Lyrid meteors. Now, since I know that I'm no longer speaking to people solely in Toronto, I'm hoping we've got people from around the world watching here now, or will be watching this video later. If you're in the South Pacific or general area, April 30th, we have a partial solar eclipse coming up. We're not going to see anything around here, but if you're somewhere else in the world, it may be available for you. And there's this crazy thing called the internet. You may be able to watch the eclipse as it happens online, which would be kind of fun. Got a very nice conjunction of Venus and Jupiter early in the morning on April 30th. If you're a photographer, you'd like to have interesting targets, that would be worth getting up for. So the moon, we've got the first quarter on April 9th, got the full moon on the 16th, last quarter on the 23rd, and the new moon, new moon on April 30th. First quarter on April 9th, is that what I said? We have a lunar X coming up April 8th. It's coming up in the afternoon, so it may not be optimal for us to view here, but if you're on the other side of the world, the lunar X, for people who have not heard this talk before, it's a alignment of two craters, crater walls bumping together. At a certain time, the sunlight will hit the top of the crater walls, and you get the appearance of an X on the surface of the moon. It's a fun thing to look for. Now, something even more fun to look for on the moon, this is one of my favorite things, is Mare Orientale. If you're out around April 15th, April 16th, look as close as you can to the eastern limb of the moon. Now, because the moon librates, it wobbles back and forth as it orbits the Earth. There are times when you can see around the corner. You can see this mysterious sea on the far side of the moon. I didn't call it the dark side of the moon because I'm tired of making that mistake. But yes, on the far side of the moon, you can see it with your own eye. It's not an outstanding time to see it. It's not the best time. The moon isn't fully librated when that limb is lit, but it should be visible. So we have planets coming up. We finally get to see some planets in the evening sky. We don't have very much going on tonight, but later in the month, Mercury will be rising in the evening sky, or I should say it should be higher and higher each successive night in the evening sky. Highest point on April 29th. Venus is going to be visible before morning twilight in the east throughout the month. It never gets very high, but it will be very bright. You're not going to be able to mistake it for anything else. Mars is also visible just before dawn. It's not very well positioned, and it's far away. It's on the other side of the sun, so it's not going to be an outstanding object to observe. The other planets, the big gas giants, are also rising in the morning. Saturn comes up first, followed by Jupiter. Neither of them are going to get very high over the horizon for this month. I think maybe 15, 20 degrees at the highest. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of atmosphere. There's going to be a lot of turbulence, a lot of haze. You're not going to get the best views of either of these planets during the upcoming month. But if you're up in the morning looking at other things, they're worth looking at while you're there. The ice giants, not much to say about them this time. Uranus is disappearing into the evening twilight. As the month goes along, it's going to be harder and harder to spot. Neptune is in the morning parade of planets, coming up before Jupiter. It's not particularly well placed to view this month. It's not going to get very high. It's far away on the other side of the sun. I wouldn't get up in the morning just for the sake of seeing Neptune, but if you're there and you want to check it off, well, sure, why not? I like to include the dwarf planets in this, of which two are reasonably visible to those of us with amateur telescopes. Pluto's in Sagittarius. If you're up in the morning, that one is it is a feasible target. 14th magnitude is hard. It's not going to be terribly high in the sky, and there's a fair number of stars around it. But if you get two successive clear nights, taking pictures of it and comparing them should be a good way to confirm that you've actually spotted it. Ceres is actually the best thing in the sky for any of us who are out in the evening doing our observing. It's 9th magnitude, easy object in a telescope. It's got a dark sky. It's manageable under binoculars. And it's way up there. Should be no problem seeing it under just about any conditions. So I always like to go for a bit of deep sky stuff. There's always something to be seen up there, and people who are getting started, they should have a hint or two what to look for. M64 or Messier 64, the Black Eye Galaxy, is the one I've picked for this month. It's a essential part of your Messier Marathon, and I'll digress quickly to talk about the Messier Marathon. Every year, people who are rabidly obsessed observers like to go out and try and catch all 110 Messier objects in a single night. In Canada, we're not really well positioned for it. I don't know anybody who's done more than 105 from around here. The others are just too far south to get through the twilight. But if you're interested in a fun challenge, yeah, absolutely do it. M64 is a bright galaxy visible with binoculars. The cool thing about it is it has a really prominent dust lane. Let me just show you the picture here. See, there it is. And that's a dust lane. You can't argue about that. With a reasonable telescope, you should be able to see that dust lane, and it'll look something like a black eye, thus the name. Pretty good, eh? Now, that's okay for people working on their Messier lists, but I know there are more advanced observers here as well. There are some challenging activities you could go for here. Actually, look for spiral arms other than the black eye. Look for other structure. Something I was talking to Eric Briggs about is supernova hunting. This was going to be a full page thing I was going to discuss, all the useful science you could do hunting for supernovas, but Eric tells me it's all done by robots now anyway. So if you're going to hunt for supernova, and sure, why not? You're going to be doing it for fun, probably. The odds are low that you're going to actually visually discover a supernova nowadays. But I have seen a couple, and it's a pretty cool feeling to see a supernova, tens of millions of light years away, and say, yeah, I can see that actual object that far away. Now, if you're a serious observer and you've got a big telescope and you're looking for something really interesting, I would just say slew your telescope away from the Black Eye Galaxy. 6 degrees away is the Coma Cluster, thousands of galaxies, 12th magnitude and dimmer. And if you're really obsessed and have professional grade equipment, this is where dark matter was first detected. Scientists measuring the interactions of the galaxies in this cluster and noticing that it just didn't quite add up. So we've got comets and meteors. Last time I did this, there were no meteors and no comets to speak of, but this time we've got something. The April Lyrids, peaking on April 22nd. It's about 20 meteors an hour. It's the last quarter moon, so the moon won't be absolutely terrible. It's going to be a decent shower. You know, it's not Perseid quality, but worth having a look if you're out somewhere and you've got a clear, dark sky. We've got another serious shower coming up, the Eta Aquarids. They actually don't peak until next month's sky this month, but I'm going to include it because it's a long duration shower. It actually starts up around April 15th. So you'll be able to start seeing them sporadically and more increasing as we get towards the next meeting. Minor showers, the only one I could see was the Pi Pupids, April 16th to April 30th. This one's a variable meteor shower. It's got no set rate or no predicted rate. You could get one or two, you could get dozens or even hundreds per hour. Nobody knows. So it's probably, if you're out, you know, and you see some meteors, track them back to their radiant, see where they're from, and see if you can figure out if you're seeing those interesting meteors. Got a couple of meteor dribbles, the Kappa Serpentids, the Alpha Virginids, and the H Virginids. These guys are usually predicted to have one or two meteors per hour, so under no circumstances get out of bed to track them down. But if you're out observing and you see a meteor, see if you can track it back and see if you can identify it as one of these very weak showers or whether it's just a random field meteor. We do have some comets in the sky. Nothing super high quality or super bright. But if you like looking for comets, and who doesn't, we've got C2021 F1 Lemon Pan Stars. It's 9.1 in Pisces. C2019 L3 Atlas, 10th in Gemini. 19P Borrelly, 10.7 in Perseus. C2019 T4 Atlas in Crater down in the southern part of the sky. These are the ones above 11th magnitude, and I'm grateful that this time they're all names that I have no trouble pronouncing. So we like to have a double star to look for. Looking for Gamma Leonis this time around. Second magnitude star in the sickle of Leo with a third magnitude companion. They're 4.8 arc seconds apart, so you're going to need a telescope to split them. And a 554-year period, which is probably longer than we're going to stick around to see a whole orbit. But it's interesting for a number of reasons. One is it's supposed to be very beautiful. I haven't been able to get out in the past couple of weeks to confirm this. It's been cloudy here, so I'm going by the rating of people on the internet who say it's a very lovely pair. It has a possible 10th magnitude companion 6 minutes away and may orbit at a distance of 10,000 astronomical units. Now this one's unsure because obviously if the distance is that far, it's going to be a very slow orbit, but you can have a look for it anyway. Now it's cool for one more thing, and that is it carries with it an 8.8 Jupiter mass exoplanet. Now, what's interesting about this one, we've got 5,000 exoplanets currently confirmed. Why is this one interesting? Well, mostly because the masses of the primary and secondary star are not precisely known. So depending on how you twiddle the equations, we could actually be looking not at an 8.8 Jupiter mass exoplanet, but a 16 Jupiter mass brown dwarf. Now, obviously, we aren't going to see it unless you have space telescope quality equipment, but it's always cool to look at a star and say, yeah, there's a planet out there. Now we got to have a variable star. I would, if you didn't have a variable star, you'd know that I was being held hostage here and trying to signal for help. I've picked RS Canum Venaticorum this time. It's an eclipsing variable with a 4.8 day period. Fairly goes from 7.9 to 9.1 magnitude. Now, this one's a bit more interesting than your average eclipsing variable. Just a brief aside, eclipsing variables are where you get two stars orbiting around each other, and during each orbit, one of them gets in the way of the other from our line of sight, and the brightness will dip. This one's slightly different in that there's also smaller scale variations in the brightness, and as far as we know, it's probably due to dark spots on stellar surfaces. And as always, if you're observing this stuff, record your observations and send them to the American Association of Variable Star Observers, aavso.org. You can actually contribute to real live science with your observations. Now, like supernova hunting, a lot of variable star observing is being taken over by robotic surveys. So if you are going to look for variable stars, there are two things you can do. One is contribute to the well-known stars so that you can help correlate the differences between the robotic observations and the visual observations and extrapolate that back over time to give a baseline so we can use all those 100 years worth of records. The other thing to do is do your observing, looking at stars where the changes are faster than 2 or 3 days or whatever the frequency of the robotic surveys are. So you're looking at cataclysmic variables, fast eclipsing variables, or stars like this, where the brightness is changing in a random and unpredictable way on shorter terms than the robots are going to be able to keep up with. So coming up, we've got some space flight highlights. The James Webb Space Telescope is going to be the next big thing. So far, everything is looking really good. I hope we've all seen the image of the calibration stars and all the tiny galaxies hidden behind it. It's showing a lot of promise. I think we're going to see some amazing stuff. Mars has finally got out from behind the sun, so rovers are going to start sending interesting data. Keep an eye out for what's happening there. Artemis is preparing to launch probably sometime in the next few months. First step to getting back to the moon. I'm really looking forward to that. I don't know how many people here remember the moon landings. I remember them, but I don't remember which was which because I was just a little kid at the time. We've got a mission taking paying passengers to the ISS on April 8th, Axion Mission 1. That is one where I think we want to gather in a bar with a few beers and debate the entire subject of passengers on the ISS. But it's happening, so you're now aware of it. From the 25th until the next meeting, the space station will be passing overhead in the morning. Heavensabove.com for your own personal time according to where your location is. I still, all these years later, I'm still not tired of seeing the ISS pass over. It makes me feel like I'm living in a science fiction future with a space station overhead. So finally, what if it's cloudy? What if it's cloudy? Yeah. We have citizen science projects available at zooniverse.org. They have a whole heap of projects, astronomy, physics, all kinds of other sciences. The ones I'm highlighting this time, the Super WASP Variable Star Measuring Project, Active Asteroids, trying to define the boundary between what's an asteroid and what's a comet. Cosmic muon images. This is kind of cool. You're imaging things in the Earth according to cosmic muons blasting through the Earth and giving I don't know what's the word I want, shadows on the muon detectors. And finally, radio galaxy zoo, where you are classifying galaxies according to their radio emissions. So all of these interesting projects, there are a ton more. We all know there's going to be a couple of cloudy nights ahead of us. So if you're desperate to get some science in, this is the stuff for us. So that's what we have. And thanks very much. I hope we have some clear skies.
Andy, thank you very much for great coverage for the sky this month for April. Emma, do we have any questions for Andy?
Nope, we didn't get any questions tonight for Andy. Sorry, we actually did get one question in just right now from Arnold. How much longer for the ISS?
The last date I heard was 2030, but obviously political instability may make it difficult to really predict how it's going to work out.
Great. That's all the questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emma, and thank you, Andy, again for a great presentation. We'll move on to our next speaker, and that is Tim Doucette. He'll talk to us about Celestron Starsense Explorer telescope and software. Go ahead, Tim.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for inviting me. My name is Tim Doucette, and I come from Quinnan, Nova Scotia, about 30 minutes out of Yarmouth. So, today I'm going to talk to you about a couple of things, actually. I'll give you a quick introduction about myself, where I am, the importance of our area, and we'll talk about the Celestron Starsense Explorer telescopes, and hopefully give you guys a good understanding of how they work and how things and if it's something that's right for you. So let's get to it. So I am the owner-operator of the Deep Sky Observatory out in just half an hour out of Yarmouth County, Nova Scotia. And I started in 2016 building an observatory, a family-run business. We started as an astrotourism kind of destination area. Sometimes it's cloudy, of course. We still have things that happen here. In 2018, we ended up creating the sky bubble experiences. We created a cabin for rent and with nice skylights. Most popular right now is the sky bubble tents, which are basically outdoor bubble tents. We have a beautiful lake for kayaking, or I should say a river for kayaking, and fire pits. It's nice to fish and enjoy just the night sky and the campfires and the whole camping experience. So this has become sort of a big glamping experience. We've hosted star parties and have about 1,500 people a year that attend the observatory experience and stay overnight. These tents are really nice because they keep you out of the elements, at the same time give you a beautiful night sky view all night. And what happens if it's cloudy? Well, you better hope there's a thunderstorm because that's a real experience too. So our region here in Southwest Nova Scotia is quite a special one. Advance to the next slide. So our area, like in our community, we've basically In 2014, our area was being looked at by a group called the Starlight Foundation as an area for astrotourism experiences and also astronomy, outreach, education, the whole bit. So in this time, we've created this this experience. One of the things that's really on our list of priorities is to help protect the night sky, which is one of the things our designation gives us. Basically, that's one of the mandates for us. As you can see, this area here, we've been the first and currently only Starlight tourist destination and reserve in North America since 2014. Working with auditors, it was deemed that this was a really viable area. Being part of a UNESCO biosphere helped that as well. So we're working very hard to keep our skies dark. And we're currently, where I am here, we're in Bortle 2, 1.5 to 2. And most of the central part of Nova Scotia is in Bortle 1. So we've been trying very hard. We have our municipality of Argyll now has regulations protecting our night sky. We've been working with them, and there's actually additional regulations that are coming on as nuisance bylaws and such. So it's pretty exciting. And Deep Sky Eye is not the only experience. There's other experiences that you can come to Nova Scotia in our neck of the woods and enjoy, like an outdoor night hike. We have trails. We're actually working on a trail right now as a planet walk trail for about 1.2 kilometers that leads to the ocean with an incredible view of the Milky Way looking south. So anyways, that's my introduction. So if you're looking for something fun to do this summer, come for a visit. So the product that I'd like to talk to you about today is the Celestron Starsense Explorer telescopes. So this is a group of telescopes that Celestron started in 2018. It's a lineup of telescopes and really meant for the beginner to intermediate level. The one we're going to be talking about today is actually the cheapest one on the list. Retails for about $250 or so. It's the Starsense Explorer 80AZ smartphone app-enabled telescope, as they describe it. Now, just looking at the spec sheet from what's on the website, it's an 80 millimeter aperture. It's not terribly huge, 3.1. It's f11. It comes with a bunch of stuff. I'll talk about that in a second. Useful magnification, realistically, with what they give you, is really about 36 times, really. If you've got a better tripod, you'll end up with sort of the 90 times magnification. So what makes this type of telescope so special? There's no motors on these telescopes. Essentially what it does is it pairs with your cell phone. So you mount your cell phone on top of it, and I'll show you that in a bit. But the requirements for your phone are fairly specific. The newer the phone you have, the better experience you're going to end up with. It says it works with iPhone 6 and above. I haven't actually tested it. But what your phone really needs is 3 basic things. You need to have a good camera on the phone. You need to have the gyroscope and the accelerometer. And the more accurate those are as the technology has improved, the better it is. It uses a technology, what we call plate solving. Essentially, it takes a picture with your phone of the sky, figures out where all the stars are, and shows it to you on your phone, so that you can move your telescope around using the tripod adjustments. And I'll show you a demonstration of that as well. So what comes in the box with this? Well, there's a bunch of stuff. Of course, you get the telescope, the manual. You get the one thing that kind of discouraged me a little bit was it comes with an erect image diagonal, which is not as good for stargazing. I think they could have maybe just kind of skipped that and just, given you a regular diagonal would have given you a little bit more light gathering power. But I guess some people would want to use it in the daytime. And part, I think, that, as well as the alignment process, requires you to look at something. It can be in the daytime, and I think for simplicity, I think that's why they did that. Comes with a 2x Barlow 20 and a 10 millimeter eyepiece, a star pointer. So basically, some of the standard stuff. It comes with 2 access codes for 2 pieces of software. You need to activate the app. There's a Starsense Explorer app that you can download, and it also comes with Starry Night Basic Edition. I have Starry Night Pro, and I enjoyed quite a bit for my computer. So this is kind of what the telescope is looks like set up. It has a attachment for your phone at the top, and got it set up with the diagonal and everything, and the tripod and the accessory tray. It's pretty cold. You can see my breath that night when I set it up to test it out over the holidays. And my sort of main reason for buying this telescope, I had sort of twofold reason for buying it. The first one was because I was actually going to give one away, which I gave one away as a door prize for a mini star party, an online star party we had over Christmas. So, and the other one was, which I'll get to in a little bit later, is setting it up for my own use, not using this telescope. So here's the setup. It has a little mirror, has a little bracket attachment, and so here I am setting it up. You just slide your phone inside, and it works good even with larger phones. Like I've got the Galaxy Ultra 21 Ultra, and it works quite well. Basically what you do is it goes through a 2-step alignment. It takes a picture of what's in front of the telescope, and here I am zooming in to my parents' house, they live next door, so it's not my neighbors, so just my parents. And you look through the eyepiece, and you basically have to just align those two. It's easier to look through the eyepiece first, and look at, say, even a star or a land object, and then adjust the pointer on the software as accurately as you can. Then the software instructs you just to point it at the sky. There you can see, might be able to see Orion. I was pointing it up at Orion just to give it a test. It takes a snapshot. It plate solves it right on your phone. You don't need to have the internet at all to work with this app, which is incredible. It plate solves within a few seconds, at least on this phone. It's quite zippy. And then once it's done that, it knows where it is in space. So then you can say, oh, I want to have a look at something. So the first object I just picked as demonstration was Sirius. There's quite a large catalog of objects that you can look at, which is really cool. I would have killed to have this when I was younger as a Christmas gift, that's for sure. So I picked Sirius to have a look. So it tells you just to adjust the telescope and move towards the target. So I'm just moving it by hand with the alt-azimuth knobs. And when you get close to it, it just tells you to leave the telescope alone, and it does another plate solving, and it gets you that extra bit even closer. Once the target is aligned, you can then look through the eyepiece and see what you have. So this was pretty cool because it was really my first kind of test at it. But looking at the eyepiece, you can see that bright blob in the bottom of the eyepiece, and that's Sirius. So I was pretty impressed right away from the get-go. And I did another search just, for the Orion Nebula. I mean, I know roughly where it is anyway, but just to test it out, I got to the Orion Nebula and plate solved again, and away we went. And looked in the eyepiece again, and you can kind of see a little bit of a blur. It was a bit of a hard challenge just to hold the phone there, but you can kind of see Orion is actually there, the trapezium. So that was using just the 20 millimeter eyepiece too. So as far as quality of the optics, it's what you'd expect. Here's a picture. They're coated optics. Not using I don't think they're using the Star Bright coatings, the newer stuff, but They're still quite, fully multi-coated. You can see the color difference. And I took a picture of the moon as well. Now, to be fair, this is not a fair picture because I was actually taking a picture through a double pane glass window that was pretty dirty. So it does, sort of a much better job. But you can see some chromatic aberration, or the purple around the moon and stuff. Regardless of that, it can make significant. You can get some fairly decent shots, I think, with this scope. Anybody that would be interested in really using these scopes for some more serious observing, I would go with the higher apertures. There's 130 millimeters, and I would also go with the reflector telescope as well. And the reason I didn't is because I wanted this to be an absolute beginner, kind of telescope, and not have to worry about collimating a reflector scope. So as I mentioned, the other thing I was looking at doing is mounting it on my 16-inch Dobsonian telescope. Not so much for me as much, but my plan for this summer, since I just got this scope in the fall, and I got it quite cheaply, so I was pretty excited. What I'm planning to do with it is attach the Starsense Explorer package onto the telescope, so that when other people use this telescope, they'll be able to find things a little bit easier in the night sky. In general, I have an assistant that helps out in the summertime experience, and as part of the experience, the Dobsonian will be used this time. I bought a tracking platform from Crossbow Platforms in California. A really great company to work with, and a gentleman that owns it, he put me on the list, a little bit higher on the list, because he knew what I was doing out here for stargazing and tourism and outreach. So I got my platform last week, and I'll show you another picture actually of the whole setup. So when I took this gadget apart a little bit, I was trying to think about how I could modify it so that I could put it on my scope. It comes apart quite nicely with different, just unscrews. It's very simple, piece of equipment, and quite well. It's very bulky. It's very, it weighs a good bit. It's got the sort of the Nex. You've heard of the Nex YZ camera adapter. Well, that's basically what they're using here. Easy to make adjustments. This little gadget here, which looks like the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars, that's the piece I wanted to replicate, because that was what fits on the scope, and the camera adapter bolts onto that. So that's what I started tinkering a little bit. I do a little bit of 3D modeling. And so what I did was I basically took a picture of it, brought it into Photoshop, and extruded it into 3D. Now I know Photoshop they're sort of getting rid of some of these features, but then I just saved it and brought it into a program called Tinkercad. It's a free CAD software that you can use, and it's very simple to use. It's very basic. You're not going to get high precision stuff. But I was able to build a 3D model and make it exactly what what it looked like in real life. As you can see, there's very simple options to subtract. So I see the big circle there. Well, that's how I made the arc. I measured my tube diameter, which is about 19.25 inches, which is the diameter of the secondary holder, and then just put all the holes for the screws, and I got the perfect arc that fits right along the tube. I don't have to worry about building stuff that made out of. I'm not very good with wood. I'm good with graphics and 3D printing. I plan, once I'm finished with this, I'm actually planning to put this model on Thingiverse, which is a company or a place where you can go and do 3D modeling. Upload your models. You can sell them if you want, or you can just, let people, give them away if you want, which is most likely what I'll do. I uploaded a model that I did for an eyepiece projection sleeve to protect people's eyes from COVID. You'll be able to find that online as well. So yeah, and then I just started doing the 3D print of it. I have a 3D printer at home, and this is still a work in progress, so it's not completely done yet. But when I'm finished, like I say, I'll be mounting this onto my telescope. I did a quick test before I did all this. Basically, strapped it with some duct tape onto the optical tube, and tried it out, and the Starsense performed just as well. So we created an accessibility ramp at the observatory, so we can wheel out these telescopes onto the main outdoor observing platform. And my son, so here I have my little scope buggy, and my son was kind enough to build another building. So this was kind of the next best solution. And that way it also makes the observatory accessible to people in wheelchairs that want to come in and look at what we have inside there. So how well does it work? Well, I will certainly be letting everybody know how well it works. I mean, I've done it. I've been testing it out, and without all the 3D stuff, and it works really good. So I'm pretty impressed, actually. The gentleman that won the telescope, he also was a very amateur, and he's, as far as I know, he's doing well. So that's really good. So just that's kind of my little review of the Starsense telescope and its things there. Its associates, if you will. So I'll just show you a couple of photographs that that I use that I take in the observatory. I have a C14 Edge with a hyperstar, and I also do time-lapse photography as well. So yeah, any questions? You're welcome to fire them along, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Tim, that's absolutely amazing. Your site, your setup is amazing, and of course this little gadget is very neat. I just heard of the Starsense, but never really
occasionally,
knew.
We're very lucky. Occasionally, we do actually get to see the Northern Lights.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Sorry, am I going through?
And if you have any questions, feel free to email me, tim@deepskyeye.com, and we'll be happy to help you out.
Okay, am I on board? Okay. Sorry, I'm not sure if I was being heard earlier. I was saying amazing stuff, Tim. Your site and your observatory and what you're doing with the dark sky location, that's fabulous. And also the Starsense is pretty neat stuff. I've heard of Starsense, but I never really took the time to understand what it was. Now I do understand it. So thank you so much. Let's go to Emma for any questions.
Hi, yeah, so we got 3 questions in so far. First one comes in from Eric Briggs. Do you have to take special steps to stop your phone screen from sleeping out on you? That was a problem I had with my Sky Safari app connecting to my Sky portal.
Hello, Tim, can you hear us? Okay. Okay. Hello, we're back. Apologies for a minor technical glitch. We'd like to find out from Emma if there are any questions for Tim.
Yes, we have a few questions. The first one comes in from Eric Briggs. Do you have to take special steps to stop your phone screen from sleeping out on you? That was a problem I had with my Sky Safari app connecting to my Sky portal.
I did not have that issue. I think it overrides the control for the phone, for the camera that it's taking pictures. Once you've got the telescope and the camera aligned, the camera sort of disappears and your phone stays. What's really nice too is once you've got it lined up, you can turn your phone off if you want, and you can move around the sky, and you can turn your phone back on and just run the app, and you're already lined up, so you don't have to do the alignment process again. And it just does its own, takes a picture, plate solves, shows you where to go, and then you're off to the races. You can pick up the telescope, you can bring it in another location. There's no pointing north, no level, no anything like that.
Great.
That helps.
The next question comes in from Arnold Brody. Awesome plate solving. Does the app have a night or red setting?
Yes, it does. Absolutely. I left it off just for visual, taking the video and showing people how it worked.
Cool. Next question comes in from Andy Beaton. How solid is the Starsense mount?
The Starsense mount that I had is not very solid. It could have been improved, and it can be actually improved a little bit by adding braces at the bottom of the legs. But it's not terrible. For the size of scope, I definitely wouldn't put anything heavier on it. And not that you really want to, but the newer models, the heavier scopes have better mounts. Hopefully that'll help. You can also check out, there's a couple of spots online as well that you can check people's reviews as well of the more, of the bigger scopes, if you will.
Great. This is the last question. It comes in from Paul Markov. Does Celestron sell the bracket or the software only?
No, unfortunately, they don't. That's the one thing that's kind of a pain right now. It's possible that they may do something in the future, but I can't imagine them doing it right yet. I think it's meant sort of as a marketing thing. It could be just a guess. One thing that you can do though right now, which probably is not going to happen too much in the future, but the software requires a license key to use it, and it only comes with on the card that comes with the telescope. But what I've actually been able to do is activate the software on 2 different phones. So I'm not sure if that's something just kind of something they've missed on, but that's a little hint that if you do have, if you do buy one of these and you have 2 phones you need to use for whatever reason, you can install the software on both phones.
Thank you. That's all the questions for today.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Thanks again, Tim. That was very good, very interesting. Let's move on to our next speaker. Dave Chapman will talk to us about how asteroids are named. And there's going to be some commentary as well from Peter Jedicke. Go ahead, Dave.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's quite an honor to be invited to address you. I recognize that Toronto is the heart of the RASC. That's where it was born, and the Toronto Centre is one of the bigger centers. So thank you very much for inviting me. Andrew, are you going to be able to put up my slides? Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to give you a very brief presentation tonight It's called What's in a Name, and it's actually one of a series of presentations I plan to give. This is only the minor planet portion, and so I plan to give future talks on how comets are named and lunar features and so on. So so this is all about minor planets, and the people who are responsible for naming things in the sky are the International Astronomical Union. And they have delegates from all countries and other members, mostly professional astronomers. If one way to think of them, they're like the United Nations of astronomers. If you think of it that way, they're sort of the global authoritative group that makes decisions. And they voted Pluto out of the Planet Club, and but they're also responsible for naming things. And so they name planets, dwarf planets, satellites of planets, and then there's a working group for small body nomenclature, WGSBN, and they look after they name the small solar system bodies, and they consist of minor planets, which used to be called asteroids. Minor planets is the preferred name now, and comets. Thankfully, they don't name meteoroids. And I'm only going to talk about minor planets today. Now, there's a diagram on the slide there that shows the first 10 discovered minor planets in relation to the moon. And actually, the first minor planet Ceres is now a dwarf planet. Ceres has the it has the distinction of being a planet, an asteroid, and now it's a dwarf planet. So it's been 3 different things through its lifetime. And by the way, if you wonder who I am, I should have said when I started that I'm from the Halifax Center. The moderator asked me to do that, and I forgot. I'm from the Halifax Center, and I'm a fellow of the RASC. And I'm involved in quite a few different projects. And if you want to find out all of those things, just go to my link tree, and you can see all the things that I'm involved in. So with that, let's move to the next slide, please. So the way I'm going to teach you about how these minor planets are named is to tell the story of one minor planet. Now, I searched really hard, and this is the best picture I could find of it. I'm sorry, it's not very clear, but that's what we have to deal with. That's the picture of the minor planet that we're going to talk about today. It was discovered on April 8th, 1989. I think it's 8, is it? April 8th? An observatory, April 3rd, at La Silla Observatory in Chile by Eric Walter Elst. You may not have ever heard of him, but he's a Belgian astronomer who actually just passed away a couple of months ago. But he's responsible for discovering 3,870 minor planets. He's the fourth most prolific of the individual observers. So I'm leaving out all of the observatories and robotic telescopes and stuff that discover minor planets. And so he has a minor planet named for him. Obviously, it's Elst. And this minor planet, it's a pretty ordinary asteroid. It's in the main belt. It's the radius of its orbit is 2.4 astronomical units. Its eccentricity is 0.1, which makes it close to being circular, but not exactly circular. It only gets as close as 2.1 astronomical units to the sun. So it stays well within the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. No concerns about it striking Earth or anything like that. Has a period of 3.6 years, and its orbit is inclined 7 degrees to the ecliptic. And its diameter is 5 kilometers. Now, I was looking at a map of Toronto, and 5 kilometers would cover Midtown Toronto, and it would almost cover Pearson Airport. Might be a bit small to cover the airport. In any case, if that asteroid hit anywhere near you, it would ruin your day. There's no question about that. But that's not going to happen because it's a well-behaved main belt asteroid. So let's move to the next slide, and we'll talk about how we name these asteroids. So when a minor planet is discovered, it's given a provisional name, and there's a formula involved. You take the year of the discovery, and then there's 2 letters, and possibly a number after that. So the year is the year of discovery, and the first letter comes from the sequence A, B, C up to Y. I and Z are not used, so there's only 24 letters in that first letter. And so they're mapped into half months. So that first half of January would be A, the second half would be B, first half of February would be C, and so on. So the date of the discovery gives you that first letter. The second letter is assigned just in order. So in the, if it were AA, it would be the first one in the first half of January. And the letters for letter 2 are A, B, C up to Z. I is not used, but that gives you 25 letters. So the idea there is, you go once through the alphabet. That's 25, and then and if there's more than 25, you go through the alphabet again, but you put a number 2, and if there's more than 50, you go through the alphabet again, and you give it a number 3, and so on. So that's the formula for determining the provisional name when they first discover it. And so this asteroid that I mentioned to you that was discovered in 1989, I think G corresponds to April, yes, the early part of April. So it was given the provisional name 1989 JG2. So that kind of gives you an idea, when it was discovered during 1989. Now, when they first discover an asteroid, they don't really have a good handle on its orbit. And so what they do is they keep on studying it, and they usually watch it for 2 or 3 trips around the sun until they have a very good estimation of its orbit, so its future position can be predicted. And at that point, they give it a number, and I'll explain that on the next slide. Okay, there's a bit of a delay in this end. So I'm looking for, I don't see slide 4. Are you saying a slide 4 is up? Because I don't see it this end. It's kind of frozen. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's causing me a bit of a problem because I can't see it. Okay, well, sorry about that, folks. This is my first time with this arrangement, and it's been very interesting. So we're on slide 4. And what I'm going to tell you is how it gets a permanent serial number. This is quite easy because once they decide that it's going to have a permanent serial number, they just take the last one and add 1. So series was the first one, and so on, and they just keep adding, increasing by 1. So after the precise orbit is calculated, usually after several revolutions around the sun, they gave 1989 GJ2 the permanent serial number 10073. Now, you know that asteroids are sometimes named after people or places or things, or characters. And so we'll get to the fun part. How does an asteroid get a proper name? Now, after following the discovery of the asteroid, the person who discovered it has 10 years to propose a name. Now, you can't name it after yourself. That's not allowed. And there's a whole bunch of rules, which I won't go into, about what you can't name asteroids for. But I'm not going to bother you with that. If the discoverer doesn't name it, then it's kind of open season. And people are invited to propose citations for asteroids. They don't get to choose which asteroid, but they write the citations, why the person, place, or thing should be honored by having an asteroid named. And they pass it to the working group, and the working group deliberates. And then about once a month, I think, maybe a little more often, they publish a bulletin where they publish the names of the asteroids that have been named. Okay, and so this particular asteroid 10073 was named on November 8th in 2021, not very long ago, in Volume 1, Number 11. Now there's the drum roll, and we have to go to page 5. Let me know when page 5 is up. Okay, so here's the big reveal. Asteroid 100. There's a misprint in my slide. I look at the one at the bottom. Asteroid 10073 was named Peter Hiscox in not in October 15th. Boy, there's a lot of mistakes in this. It was back in November, as I said. So 10073, 1989 JG2 was named Peter Hiscox, and that name was suggested by the Toronto Centre. And I understand that sadly he's passed away since that was done, so he did not get to enjoy that pleasure of learning that. So let's move on to slide 6. And I'm sorry about the mistakes on that slide, but I had this all arranged for somebody from the Halifax Centre, and when I edited it, I guess I was too hasty. Let me know when slide 6 is up. So slide 6, so this may not be of interest too much to the Toronto Centre. I was trying to make this Toronto-centric, or maybe Ontario-centric, but I realized that there were just too damn many asteroids named after Toronto people or Ontario people. So I'm just going to talk about my original presentation here at Halifax Centre was about an asteroid that was named here, and I wanted to let people know about all of the asteroids with Nova Scotia's connections. I won't stay on this too long. So in terms of living persons, there's David Levy, Roy Bishop, and myself. I got mine in October last year. Notice the number 10047. James Edgar, he's not in Nova Scotia, but he's a member of our centre, so he's in there. David Lane, Mary Lou Whitehorn, Dave Turner, and Dan Magus. So the names in yellow are current residents. That first list of, I don't know how many it is, are living persons. And then there's a bunch of historical figures. So Newcomia is for Simon Newcomb, who was born in Nova Scotia. And then Beals is for Carlisle Beals. Cabot is for John Cabot, the adventurer. Bill Boyle, I missed this one, and Peter had to remind me. That's after Willard Boyle, who I don't think he was born in Nova Scotia, but he lived here. He's the guy that co-invented the CCD camera, and I met him, and he got the Nobel Prize for that a few years ago, and so he has an asteroid named for him. And then that one, Slocum, is Joshua Slocum. He's the first person who sailed around the world single-handedly. And then there's a couple of places. There's Acadia University, St. Mary's University, and the town of Annapolis Royal. So those are the asteroids with Nova Scotia connections. Now, if somebody wants to do a project, maybe they could go through the list of Canadian asteroids and find like maybe the names of the asteroids with Toronto connections or Ontario connections. I imagine it's a pretty long list. So I'd like to finish up with slide 7 with some more little trivia about asteroid names. Let me know when it's up. 7 is up. So did you know the first few 100 asteroids were named for female characters in Greek mythology? And then they ran out of those. I think the first male one was Eros. So the study of asteroid names is quite fascinating. You could spend hours and hours learning about asteroid names. There's some whimsical ones. I would say whimsical, but there's an asteroid named after the Beatles. And there's asteroids named for the individual members of the Beatles. But there are other less whimsical ones. Malala, who is a Nobel Peace Prize winner. Rosa Parks, the famous black lady who refused to give up, who refused to sit at the back of the bus. Michelangelo, well-known artist and sculptor. And one of my favorites, 9007, James Bond, who is a fictional character. And 13681, Monty Python. Now, this is where I want to bring in Peter to talk. Peter Jedicke was the guy, the mastermind behind this recent series of RASC asteroids. There were 24 RASC centers were approached. Well, they were all approached, but 24 RASC centers sponsored names that were accepted and published in bulletins between September last year and February of this year. And they filled in all of the unnamed asteroids in the range 10045 to 10109. So if you go to the list of asteroid numbers, you will go through there and you'll find the 24 names that were proposed by RASC centers. And I'm going to single out one. Well, one of those was David Chapman, me, and another one was Peter Hiscox. I'm going to single out 10097 because the Prince George Center didn't nominate a person, but they wanted to memorialize the members of the Humboldt Bronco hockey team that many of whom perished in and other people perished in a terrible bus crash. So I thought that was kind of neat. So Peter Jedicke, 5899, was the mastermind. And I think Peter's there. And Peter, would you like to say a few words about that?
Sure. Hi, everyone. And thank you for welcoming me. And thank you, Dave, for including me in your wonderful little informative presentation here about the asteroid names. I'm Peter Jedicke, and I'm in London, Ontario. I'm a member of the London Center, and I'm also a fellow of the RASC. I share that with Dave Chapman. And so Dave's described how these asteroids get their names. And while Dave was talking, I was able to flip over to Wikipedia, and I'll just remind Dave that, in fact, Willard Boyle was born in Nova Scotia, according to Wikipedia anyway.
Oh, well, thank you for that correction.
And you know, and I do apologize too. I'll take at least some of the blame for you forgetting to update a couple of those numbers in your slides, because you did ask me to look at those a few days ago. So partly my fault.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
I didn't recognize Bill Boyle because I don't know him as Bill.
Right.
He's Willard Boyle. That's how I know him, Dr. Willard Boyle. So Bill Boyle just escaped me totally.
Well, actually, that's not a bad point to bring up, because you mentioned that there's quite a convoluted sequence of rules about what you can and can't do in an asteroid name, and they do encourage folks who write nominations for asteroid names to be as concise as possible. They've got a maximum. I think the maximum is 14 letters. No numbers or funny characters are allowed. It's not like passwords. And I'm pretty sure 14 is the max. So there are actually quite a few asteroids that have 14 letter names. And Willard Boyle certainly wouldn't have been, out of the question. But whoever it was who made that suggestion must have thought it would be more concise to name it Bill Boyle, or maybe they knew Willard. Maybe he really did go by Bill. Did he? I don't know. I don't know either.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, and one other point that you mentioned that I thought I would just give a little more light on is the idea of browsing through the asteroid names. I get a kick out of that, and this is the Bible for that. Hope folks can see the title of this book. It's called The Dictionary of Minor Planet Names. And this was, there's a fellow in Germany named Lutz Schmadl, who obviously is even better connected to all this than Dave and I are. This is a really huge book. It's very thick. There's something like, it's got 1,300 pages. And in fact, this was published in 2000 and I think I'm going to say 2006. And so any of the asteroid names since then are not even in here. So this is kind of fun. I often spend, a rainy evening kind of browsing through this and trying to make connections. As Dave has hinted, and as most of you will surely be aware, a lot of asteroids are named for famous folks, either dead or alive, folks who've contributed to exploration, to science, to literature, to art, culture, all kinds of things. So that's a little more to fill in what Dave was asking about. And I came on partly because I thought I would help answer any questions about asteroid names that anyone might have. But I also just thought I would give a little bit more detail on what we did there in this current round of naming proposals. As Dave mentioned, 24 names have been accepted by the IAU's committee that were proposed by centers across the RASC. And this occurred to me in 2018, so it feels like forever ago. It's 4 years ago already. And in fact, as you might have noticed, Dave highlighted the Humboldt Broncos. That bus crash took place in April of 2018. And so when I reached out to the centers and Prince George Center replied, and I discussed it with them, this was fresh on everyone's minds. And in fact, I don't mind just saying, even though I don't even think I knew where Humboldt, Saskatchewan even was before that terrible accident, I put my hockey sticks out next to my front door for a week after that dreadful crash, just because it was something that I thought reached out to all Canadians. We're all hockey fans, and a tragedy like that. So I think it's wonderful that an asteroid name can be used to provide a connection, a memorial along those lines. And I think that maybe the folks in the professional side of the International Astronomical Union, maybe they underappreciate how much fun the folks who are not professionals can have with something like asteroid names, both in terms of outreach to the public and also in terms of among ourselves. We are serious amateur astronomers. We know a thing or two about what's up in the sky. And, we've heard Tim this evening talk about all the different adventures he's had with his equipment. We take these things fairly seriously. And it's a nice little bit of, one word I might use is whimsy when we talk about asteroid names. And I really appreciate that. So having the idea to propose names from across the RASC, I thought would be a good way to kind of get this ball rolling. Dave mentioned that the numbers are in sequence now. Once after the orbit's been calculated, asteroids get a sequential number. And even though this current batch of asteroids was chosen from numbers that started with 100. The actual numbered asteroids are now well up over 500,000, and something like 95% of those asteroids don't have names. So I think it's important for us to establish an evolving tradition that folks who take astronomy seriously and are really keen about it are the ones who get preferred for those asteroid names. I've got nothing against having asteroids named John, Paul, George, and Ringo. That's part of the whimsy of it, sure. But I would be a lot more impressed if I heard that, Paul McCartney was going to do a song about his asteroid because he was so pleased to be immortalized in the heavens. I like the idea that we use this as a connection for astronomy. And so that's what happened with the 24 names that I submitted the proposals late in 2018, but the back channels went on and on and on. What Dave mentioned about the working group for a small body nomenclature producing a bulletin, you might have noticed when Dave referred to those bulletins that the bulletin number 1 was in 2021, was last year, basically less than a year ago now. And asteroids have been named for 200 years. So what's been going on? Well, for all of those 200 and basically 21 years up to now, the names of asteroids were announced along with a lot of other observing information, a lot of other technical details in a publication called the Minor Planet Circulars. And the Minor Planet Circulars sometimes run up into hundreds of pages, 600-700 pages, long lists of observatory assignments, reports of asteroid recoveries that had been lost or something similar, temporary calculations of orbits based on shorter observational periods. All kinds of things were in these Minor Planet Circulars, and they're still published. But it was decided that since there was this huge backlog of unnamed numbered asteroids, that they would break that off so that the naming of the asteroid, the announcement of the names of the asteroids, wouldn't be held back if for any reason there were delays in the Minor Planet Circulars. And in the last few years, that had actually happened quite a few times. There were computer glitches. There was just plain old bogged down due to large volumes of observations and so on. There was a lot of reasons over the last, let's say, 5 years when the Minor Planet Circulars were delayed. And that obviously the IAU took that seriously and basically has taken a huge step forward in solving the problem by having this more or less monthly bulletin produced just by the group that worries about the small body nomenclature, and mainly that means the asteroid names, the names for the numbered asteroids. So that's where we stand right now, and here we are. I also want to mention, since I think I heard Eric Briggs' name mentioned here, I hope that means Eric's in the audience along with all of the rest of you online. Eric and I have been working on maintaining the database of Canadian connected asteroid names on the RASC's Society website, and Eric's done a huge amount of work. I want to acknowledge that work and give my personal thanks to Eric for keeping me on the straight and narrow a lot of times. So with that, I will conclude my remarks. Dave might want to jump back in and push me on something. I'm available for any of you to ask questions for a little while here yet, and thanks very much.
Well, I think we might have exceeded our time allotment, which I never actually communicated to you, but I will just say a couple of remarks. One is that in the recent issue of the Journal of the RASC, the President's Corner has a full listing of the recent, the recent RASC asteroids. So if you want to go there, they're all there, all 24 of them. The other thing is, it makes great party conversation. I go into a party. I was down on vacation in Cuba, and people were saying, "Hey, you seem to know a lot about the skies. So what are you an astronomer or something?" And I said, "Well, I'm an amateur astronomer, But I said, here's a cool fact. I said, I have an asteroid named after me. And they're like, "Oh, no way. That couldn't be." And I said, "Well, no, you can look it up online. You can Google it." And I said, "And it's even in Sky Safari." about a month after the asteroid 10047 was always in Sky Safari, but about a month after it was named after me, they updated their list, and so I can actually look at my name in Sky Safari, which I think is super cool. And that's the end of my comments. Thank you, Peter, for helping me.
You're welcome, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you, Dave and Peter. That's all very interesting, and I really appreciate you shedding light on how asteroids are named, and of course the Canadian connection, and the fact that you're behind it, essentially. So thanks again. And Dave, you mentioned that this is one presentation in the series, so I'd like to have you back in the future. Tell us how the other heavenly objects are named.
Well, I was thinking about that. If you found that interesting enough, I mean, I could definitely do comets, which isn't that much different from asteroids, but there are some pretty interesting aspects, like you can discover a comet and have it named after yourself. So there's lots to be said about the naming of comets.
Right. Good.
I
Let's
want
go
in on that too when you discuss that.
Okay. Very good.
Wait a second.
We've got room for everybody. Let's go to Emma. Let's find out if there are any questions.
Yeah, so we actually didn't get any questions tonight for this one.
Wow.
Okay, well, in that case, I do have a question myself. Are you working on a new submission with new suggested names?
The short answer is yes.
Very
Yes
good.
and yes.
And I guess you don't want to say any more.
No.
Yeah, I have to admit,
can't.
and you know, it's a worthwhile thing to ask me,
Yeah.
so I appreciate that. I don't want to sound cagey, but I also don't like getting folks expectations up too high. The committee works in strange ways. Things go on behind the scenes that I'm not aware of. I'm sure folks can appreciate that there's that sort of thing involved with anything like this. So I prefer to only share it once it's done, kind of thing. That way nobody can get disappointed.
Absolutely. So from the time you make a submission to the time you hear back, how much time elapses?
Well, that's where what I was saying towards the end there. In the days when the minor planet circulars had to carry all of this information, you could wait literally years for something to go through. I am hopeful. I don't know anyone else who has made submissions in the last, let's say, year or so. But when I look at the lists that come out in these monthly bulletins, I'm reading between the lines. I actually think they've managed to shorten the process considerably, and I think that's a really good thing. So, I guess I'm going to answer the question this way. I think we are now down to the level where you might expect an answer within a year.
Sounds about right, about reasonable.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, so thanks again, gentlemen. Really appreciate your presentation. That concludes the speakers lineup for this evening. We can go ahead then with our president, Tom Luton, and the announcements for this evening.
All right. Well, thank you very much to all of our speakers, and good evening, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. So, we've got quite a bit to talk about in the announcements this evening, so let's get started. So, as Paul was saying earlier, we've got two types of meetings here. This has been one of our recreational astronomy nights, and coming up in a couple of weeks is going to be one of our speakers nights. If you're watching us live, please use the YouTube chat, say hello, enter some questions for presenters as others have done. If you're a new member, please introduce yourself, and if you're coming to us from far, far away, let us know where you're coming from. Now, I have a very special announcement. So, the RASC Service Award has been announced. The Service Award is a major award of the Society given to a member in recognition of outstanding service rendered over an extended period of time, at least a decade, where such service has had a major impact on the work of the Society and or of a center of the society. And tonight, I am delighted to announce that the winner is is Ron McNaughton. Just going to read off the citation here for you. Ron McNaughton has been a member of the Society since 1994. He has been a contributor to the Toronto Centre's newsletter Scope and a frequent presenter at Recreational Astronomy Nights. In addition to presenting the sky this month occasionally, he also discusses a wide range of topics in astronomy that catch his eye. From immersive astronomy, inspired by a visit to the Van Gogh Immersive Art Display in Montreal, to weighing the Earth 2.5 centuries ago, his presentations are always well received, and a couple have drawn many viewers to the Toronto Centre's YouTube channel. Oumuamua, Visitor from Another Solar System, has been viewed by over 1,900 visitors, and How Ancients Predicted Eclipses has had over 2,200 views. Ron frequently posts about his observational activities in the Toronto Centre's email forum and actively encourages new members to participate in the Centre's activities. Recent posts include the launch of the James Webb Telescope, Comet Leonard, future star parties in Ontario, observing auroras, and selecting observing equipment. He's been a participant in work parties at the EC Carr Astronomical Observatory and at our various outreach programs conducted in cooperation with the Science Centre and the University of Toronto. Ron's contributions to the many observational activities of the Toronto Centre were recognized with the Bertram Topham Award for Observing in 2019. He received the Ontario Volunteer Service Award in 2017 in recognition of his contributions to our education and public outreach programs. At the national level, Ron served for several years as a member of the Society's Education and Public Outreach Committee. He continues to encourage members across Canada to become more active observers and participate in the Society's many observing programs. Ladies and gentlemen, Ron McNaughton. So, moving on. Coming up in a couple of weeks is our next Speakers Night meeting. Dr. Carl E. Fields, RFP Distinguished Postdoctoral Fellow, will be discussing the remarkable death of a massive star. It'll be here live on YouTube, 7:30 p.m. on the 20th of April. Our next Recreational Astronomy Night is on the 4th of May, Star Wars Day, 7:30 p.m. Arnold Brody will be discussing the sky this month. Ron McNaughton, again, will be talking about stimulating durable astronomy clubs in high schools. And we've currently got one slot available for the next meeting. So if you've got something you'd like to present, please drop Paul Markov a line. Coming up with DDO in the next few weeks, on Friday, April the 8th at 8 p.m., Dr. Michael Reed, as part of our Astronomy Speakers Night, will be discussing the search for another Earth. There's a $12.76 fee. You register online, and the links can be found at rasto.ca. On April the 10th at 11 a.m. is Ask an Astronomer with our own Chris Vaughn. $5.65 registration fee. Again, links are on our website. DDO Up in the Sky on the 23rd of April, 8:30 to 10 p.m. $12.76 fee. Registration online. And Sunday Stargazing on Sunday, April the 24th, 12:30 p.m. to 1 p.m. with a $6.78 registration fee. And as I said before, all links to all of these registrations can be found at rasto.ca. Coming up on this Saturday, April the 9th, 7:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., we're doing something to mark returning to the moon. The Canadian Space Agency is joining NASA for a return to the moon with the Artemis mission, and unfolding over the next several years, Artemis will eventually land a human on the moon for the first time since the early 1970s and establish a presence and a base there. Join the RASC Toronto Centre for a 1-hour online event to learn more about Artemis and Canada's participation. We welcome Dr. Bhairavi Shankar, an expert in lunar science, to tell us more about the moon. Our resident public education astronomer, Chris Vaughn, will show you how to observe and follow the moon from your own backyard, balcony, or window. And finally, if the weather behaves itself, we will visit the moon ourselves, courtesy of live views through 3 telescopes in 3 different locations. Additional details are on our website. Now, Some news a lot of you folks have been waiting for. Effective the 1st of April, the Toronto Centre restarted our outdoor public outreach with a few caveats. We strongly recommend that volunteers and visitors wear masks. We strongly recommend that telescope operators disinfect their eyepieces, focusing knobs, and any other touch points, like a step ladder, with 70% rubbing alcohol following each visitor or family unit. We require visitors to disinfect their hands before touching any information booth literature. And we ask that when deciding if you're going to participate in any outdoor event, all members consider their personal health and comfort first. Now, this is only applying to outdoor public outreach. As of this time, all the rest of our in-person operations, there are no changes at the moment. We are still remaining online with all of our recreational astronomy nights and all of our speaker nights. Having said that, our first public outreach event in 2 years will take place this Friday, April 8th, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. at Millennium Square in Pickering. We're going to be, the site is on the south end of Liverpool Road next to Frenchman's Bay. We'll be observing the moon and stars through our telescopes, as well as we'll be handing out some literature. You can bring your own telescope, and we'll be happy to help you set it up and aim it at the moon. Remember to dress for cold weather down by the lake. As I said before, mask wearing is strongly recommended, as is using hand sanitizer. Please check out our website for a go, no-go decision based on the weather before heading down to the square. Now, our observing sessions, both dark sky and in-city, are still suspended for the time being. Not because they will be reactivated. What we're waiting for at the moment, though, is we're still looking for a chair for the observing sessions, or chair of the observing committee, to handle this part of our outreach. And so we're once again putting out the call for an observing chair to handle the dark sky sessions at Long Sault and Glen Major and the city sessions at Bayview Village Park. In the past, we've had a large team of people that help divvy up the work, and this person is responsible for making whether go or no-go announcements, meeting and greeting folks on the night of the events, and sharing a quick report with the rest of the center the day after. If you care to volunteer, please contact myself at president@rastio.ca. CAO is open. However, the road is not in the best of shape. So it's sort of a moot point to say that it's actually open. But anyway, if you can get in, you'll have to get in without using the road. Access is still limited. The total site occupancy is limited to 10 bookings up to 25 individuals. One member family staying upstairs in the house. The rest are members' families' bookings for day use, not staying overnight, or using tents or RVs or the like. Full details are on the website. Please read everything before you make your booking. Couple of additional jobs that we're currently trying to fill. Our Light Pollution Committee chair, we're looking for a new one. We're looking for a marketing committee chair and some committee members. The AV committee, the folks who work so hard to make these presentations happen, are looking for additional help. Education Public Outreach are looking for additional members, especially anyone who's got a telescope camera operation who can assist with virtual star parties. Please contact myself at president@rastio.ca if you'd like to help out. Just a quick plug of the benefits of RASC membership. You can renew online, secure.rasc.ca. You get access to a whack of publications, including the journal, including our world-famous Observer's Handbook. If COVID has thrown you things for a loop, the RASC does have an emergency fund for long-time members, completely confidential. as well as gift memberships can also be purchased from the national office. Full details are available by emailing mempub@rask.ca. And with that, I'd like to wish you all a pleasant evening. Thank you very much for joining us here online. Please follow us on all the forms of social media we've got listed here. If you like what you've seen this evening, please like and subscribe, hit the notification bell. Stay safe and keep looking up. Take care.